Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. It's the year that we're trying to discover who's going to run our country. One of the most disturbing elements that I've found through this whole campaign between the two candidates is the amount of negativity they seem to be slinging toward each other with no real solutions as to what they'll do once they're in office guiding this country. Then it got me thinking as I was sitting there watching that, how often negativity seems to permeate through our lives and how much it actually influences the decisions that we make and the quality of life that we live. The question is it possible to release negativity, maybe kind of get it out of our lives a little more often so we have a clearer vision of what we want, a better direction of where we want to go, and the excitement that it takes as a little child to get there in the first place. On our program today, we're joined by a wonderful spiritual teacher who will talk about how we hold on to negativity in the form of energy, emotions, and thoughts. We'll also be offered practical tools to release negativity that will free us to create more abundance and positivity in our lives. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest, Sivan Garr. Sivan, thank you for joining us here on the program today.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to spend some time with you and your listeners.
Well, we're excited for you to be excited to spend time with our excited listeners to find out just how much more excited we can actually get. So tell us about what's going on here? What do you think that we're just, filled in a noisy world and that a majority of it is just seemingly negative?
I think probably almost everyone would agree with that, and that is true. I can remember when I was younger and I worked in banking. I kind of call it the break room talk. It always seemed as if people would connect with each other, commiserating with each other's complaints or pain, and there would actually be an excitement around it. And I feel that most of us kind of support that, even if that's unconscious, even if we're doing it unconsciously. And most of us know that we're affected by negativity, by other people's negativity, and that we have a myriad of our own inside, whether that is negative thoughts, negative emotions, negative memories. It's something that on a spiritual path, we're actually, or anybody who wants to grow, whatever they want to call it, we're actually working hard to find a way to strengthen ourselves and to strengthen our commitment to our strengths and our positivity and our clarity and our gifts.
That seems pretty interesting, doesn't it?
Yes, for sure.
Now, let's talk about some of the ways that we actually store or hold negativity.
Essentially, what I try to explain to people, and it's part of my teaching, is that all of us are storing negativity from the time we're small because we are not taught to release it. And we're not taught how to actually navigate our emotions. And when we are confronted with very painful emotions, say very painful jealousy, that's a big one for people that is very, very hard to deal with. We aren't given the tools. So what we do is with our mind, we begin kind of ruminating on it, and we kind of pull that emotion into us, and we store it. So even if you don't have kind of a picture that we do things energetically in our body, I think everyone can imagine how our negative emotions are stored in a way. For example, if we're nervous, we might, be clutching ourselves or getting a nervous stomach, or if we are angry, we know that sometimes just shakes us and shakes our bodies. And imagine that often once we're angry or once we're nervous and that goes away, the remnants of that energy is still in our body. There's a whole school of thought that believes that that kind of emotional pain is actually a part of what causes people illness one day. And if we don't look at it from the physical standpoint of illness, we know that we suffer in our society from stress and from anxiety and from depression. And all of these things have become a part of our lives here that are very debilitating and lower extensively the quality of our lives and inhibit us from actually being able to feel empowered and feel that we can actually manifest the life that we want, to manifest our gifts, to manifest our mission on earth. And so in spirituality, beginning to look at how do we deal with negative emotions and negativity in general is a cornerstone, one cornerstone of what we work on in order to grow, in order to evolve, in order to become stronger.
Now it's really interesting, too, because when you have negativity, and it seems that sometimes it's one of those things, you'll think about it for a little bit, and then you just won't, but it's always there, and it seems to perpetuate. Then we start making decisions based on that filter that we placed in front of ourselves without realizing that's what's really going on here. And you have to ask yourself the question is, for a lot of people, how this actually affects their daily lives.
Exactly. I think that most people, while they may be unconscious of a vast majority of it, because, as you said, those decisions that we're making inside, and we act out of it later, we may not have that connection that we really realize it's coming from that negativity. At the same time, most people at some point realize that, negativity is inhibiting them from having amazing relationships, having an amazing career, from enjoying just being outdoors. When I was younger, in my 20s, I suffered from depression, and nothing for me was beautiful. There was not a moment where it didn't really matter if I was in a beautiful forest or anywhere at all. I had this dark cloud over me all the time, and that's not so uncommon.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I think what's really interesting, too, are people that hold on to negativity, especially when they feel they've been wronged by someone. And they may not express it to them like, you kind of jolted me here and I feel this way about that. They just kind of hold it inside, and yet they sort of, kind of broadcast a bitter energy toward them as though they're punishing them. Well, they're certainly punishing them in their mind, but they're certainly not taking care of the problem in the first place. And this is one of those areas where you need to consider, how do we remove this, or how do we deal with situations like that in a better way for us to feel a lot more healthy about what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good point, because it asks us to begin to imagine how to communicate in a different way in our world. When I talk to people and they complain about, something somebody did to them that they feel wronged with, and they're suffering from the reaction and dealing with it, often when I ask them, well, did you talk to them and are you working this through, their answer is, no, I'm not talking to them because I'm afraid to be mean. And so, sometimes we can talk to people and sometimes we can't. But what I generally suggest is, as often as possible, to work to reach some sort of healing experience with that person, if possible. It may not be somebody, it might be somebody that you just passed walking down the street that gave you a dirty look, but it might be somebody that you work with or that's in your life. And if it is, often when people go into conversation with people in these situations, they are full of that emotion and looking to actually kind of mentally strong-arm the other person into seeing things their way or to understanding how they were wronged or something. And I generally ask people to look at the end goal first. What is the end goal? If the end goal is being right, then you're going to stay in pain and you're not going to be able to really heal that with that person. But if your end goal is to create a healing experience where both parties walk away feeling good, then your mind will actually reach for the answers and reach for the conversation that will lead to that, instead of the conversation that's going to lead to a deeper chasm or a deeper war. And if somebody cannot really talk to that person and work something out, then there's a vast amount of practices and things people can begin to do that actually will work to release that negativity versus, and that negative emotion versus hang on to it.
Now, you talk about how releasing negativity is an active process. Why don't you go ahead and describe that for us? I was just thinking as I was reading here on your website, you know, here's an example. Most of us probably work regular jobs Monday through Friday. Mm-hmm. That's just an assumption. We can't say everybody does. I certainly don't, but most people do. So we know what the Monday morning blues are. Right. You know, there's a great time that you can actually engage in the practice of, you know, eliminating or releasing negativity. But talk about how this is an active process and what you suggest people do.
You know, there are certain things that we take for granted that we know we need to do every day, most people. So most people will can buy into the fact that they need to brush their teeth every day, that they need to take a shower every day, or wash their hair every day, or, you know, wash their dishes every day. So there are certain things we kind of take for granted, and yet we don't necessarily do that with our emotional body. And it is just as imperative to bring that aspect of our cleansing into our daily lives and to liken it to taking a shower so that we know we're constantly cleansing negative energy out of our systems along with everything else that we're doing for personal hygiene and upkeep. And we know that that creates a better quality of life. So first, the concept is to believe that that should be a part of your life, that it's important, that you want to pay attention to it, that you want to bring attention to it. And second, there are certain things that we can do, many things actually, but it has to really start with an intention that we actually want to release emotional pain. And I'll also here say that because our state of being has become comfortable to us, even if it's painful, often people are afraid of change and afraid of releasing something that they're hanging on to. So it can be a slow process, revving up that experience of wanting to release daily. And some of the simple things can be something like as simple as when you're in the shower and you're washing yourself, to actually intentionally say, I'm also washing any negativity out of my body as I'm taking this shower, as I'm washing dirt off, etc. I always say in spirituality that wherever you are, whatever you feel you can do, there is a place that you can start. And if it's just there, then that's great. And then from there are many things that we can do every day. I don't know if you want me to list some of those right now.
Yes, please.
Again, some of them are very simple. One I think that everybody kind of can connect to is cardio, doing running or the elliptical at the gym or biking, that there is something that we experience while our heart rate goes up and breathing heavy, that we're actually releasing negative emotions. Most people know they feel better after exercise, even if they don't connect all the dots as to exactly why. And in that experience can be made even better, again, if we have the intention while we're exercising and really be able to state that we are intentionally releasing negative emotions and negative energy and all negativity as we're doing this exercise. Now here, often, interestingly enough, what I've had people say to me is that they actually don't want to release negativity because they don't want it to be picked up by anyone else. And so what I tell people at that point is that if you're afraid of something like that, that you can actually add something to it, saying that you want your negativity as it is released to be transformed into positivity. So part of it is the action that you're taking. Part of it is doing something. So in this case, cardio. Another practice is something as simple as going out into nature, being by the ocean for those people who live at an ocean, being in a forest for those people who live by a forest. But I tell people, even if you just sit on your porch or in your backyard, that's really good enough. That nature is this vibrant, bigger than life manifestation of the divine and creativity and creation on this earth, and has a lot of things happening that we're not necessarily aware of. And most people, again, know that they feel better when they're out in nature. And again, taking that and being intentional about it. Another small, easy practice that I give people is just as you're walking or even sitting, to stretch your hands and stretch your toes. Just starting there, to imagine that you're beginning to create something about your body that is ready to release instead of being contracted and holding on. And in that stretching, once you've done the stretching for a few days as you're practicing this, at some point as you're walking, then you stretch your hands and stretch your feet out and toes out, and really just state, I am releasing any negativity through my hands and through my feet, and I want it to be transformed into positivity. So those are a few things that are simple practices that people can do each day. I also have a powerful meditation. I don't know if you want me to go over that, but I can also go over that today.
Sure.
Also, the meditation I can also make available to people if anybody wants to have a copy of it. So I can email it to people as well. So this meditation is a meditation that kind of combines creating an energetic protection as well as moving negativity out of your body. I'll go over the meditation and then I'll explain some of the things that can happen and the things to watch for and think about as you're doing it. So the meditation has a few parts to it, but you're going to end up doing everything at the same exact time, but I'm going to go through the parts one by one. It's actually moving, it's breathing, and it's imaging, imagining, and talking in your mind. So you start by just sitting in a comfortable chair or on a couch, preferably something with a cushiony back. And you sit up straight with your hands lying flat on top of your thighs. And you're going to start, eyes closed, by exhaling a deep breath out. And as you're exhaling the deep breath out, you're going to push your back, round your back basically, and push it from your heart center back into the couch. So it looks and feels like you're rounding your back, but you're actually doing a very intense opening stretch while you're exhaling out. Then you're going to take a deep breath in, and as you take the deep breath in, you're sitting up tall and straight. And you continue doing this, inhaling and exhaling while you're rounding your back and pushing it, stretching it into the back of the couch, and then sitting up tall and straight. And in that sitting up tall and straight, feeling powerful and strong. So while you're doing this, you're going to do this moving and breathing continuously. And while you're doing it, mentally, you give yourself the following instructions. As you're giving yourself the following instructions, you're also going to create the images in your mind going along with it, going along with exactly what you're saying. So the command you're giving yourself is something to this effect. There is a wall of divine light surrounding me, in fact, encapsulating me. And the only thing that can penetrate that wall is divine love. You can repeat those instructions a few times before continuing because you want to feel like it's a solid thought process and that you have the wall there, the image of the wall in your mind. Next, you're going to imagine that there is a hole in the wall at about waist level on your right. And at this point, the instructions that you're going to give yourself is, this hole in my wall is only for things leaving. Nothing can come in this hole. And next command is, now anything that is negative, anything that is not serving me and supporting me, anything that is not mine, needs to leave now through that hole. At this point, you want to not try to make something leave, not try to imagine, I'm hanging onto this from my childhood, etc. I want that to go, but actually literally sit back and watch what is leaving and make a mental note of it. And don't let it go for very long. Maybe at that point you're going to watch for about 30 seconds, and then you actually start the process over, where you begin with, there is a wall of divine light surrounding me, in fact, encapsulating me. And the only thing that can penetrate that wall is divine love. And then you go on to imagining that there is a hole in your wall and that nothing can come in that hole, and that anything that is leaving should be negative, anything that is not serving you, anything that is not yours. And then again, watch. And so you'll repeat that process all the while breathing and moving. And I always suggest people do it for about 5 to 7 minutes. You don't need to do it for that long. And then when you're done and it's complete for you, close the hole and bring yourself to a peaceful place, and then open your eyes. Now, the things to think about are that sometimes I've had people get dizzy when they've done it, so I always suggest start wherever you are in whatever part of it you can do. If you can't do the moving and the breathing, just do the imagery part and the commands. And if you can't imagine things, just state the instructions. So wherever you are, whatever you feel you can do, start there. Another thing that I've found is that often when people are doing it, they actually, in that trying to be powerful and sitting up straight in the breathing, they actually have some kind of intense anger force behind it. So I always suggest to people to be powerful, but not bring that kind of angry energy into the meditation. Then it's also important just to watch and to kind of pay attention to what is leaving, because in spirituality, there is a teaching pretty much in every tradition that we are practicing always observing our thoughts, our emotions, our behavior, our lives. And so in this meditation, you can practice observing just by watching what's leaving. I'll give you a little bit of an example of some things people see. I've had people tell me that they saw smoke. I've had people tell me that they saw spores. I've had people tell me that they saw little metal chunks. I've had people tell me that they saw things like pus leaving. I've had people tell me that they saw little people, leaving. So there's a wide variety of experiences that people have in this meditation, and it can just be this wild and creative moment with you experiencing yourself in a whole new way, while at the very same time creating a stronger, more powerful structure and starting a practice that can be a lifelong practice for releasing negativity from your physical body, emotional body, mental body, and energetic body.
Now, I would think, Sivan, if somebody was to engage in these practices as a regular habit, as you were saying earlier, observe your thoughts, as you see the energy or experience the energy behind those thoughts, especially the negative stuff is what we're focusing on here. Engage in the meditation, those kind of things. And as you create the habit, it becomes faster and more automatic. And the interesting thing I would believe is, and certainly you can allow me to, or let me know what your experience has been with people, but I think it gets to a point where your mind becomes very serene, that you're really more in the moment more often, and that you make better decisions as a result of that, because you've cleared that chatter out of the way through habit, or at least it's going to be there, but it doesn't have an emotional or an energetic foothold like it used to.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. And a lot of the practices that I give people are actually geared towards slowing down the thinking process, because, of course, a lot of people feel that their thinking is out of control and that they can't stop the thoughts that are going on in their head. Some people have insomnia because of it. And there are many practices, including this practice, that can begin to quiet the mind. And in quieting the mind, as you said, at this point we're more clear. And at the point we are more clear, we can actually access a part of us that has a certain knowing about us and our lives, and that part has the ability to make the decisions that are going to create the life that we feel, is an exciting one for us to live.
Yeah, nobody wants to live under the dark cloud.
Yeah,
and
for
I would
sure.
think, too, for a lot of listeners out there, as I talked earlier about the world of work, is there's a great training ground for you right there, I would think.
You mean for...
You go to work every day, you got the Monday morning blues, there's probably somebody at work that irritates you for whatever reason. These are things that, as they say, whatever your inner reality is expressed in the outer world. And as you begin to understand that relationship, you become empowered to perhaps change your environment because you're simply changing how you experience that environment.
Mm-hmm. That is exactly true. It changes how you experience your environment. It also changes the tools that you yourself have to deal with the environment. Because another person may be negative and you may not be able to stop that, but your approach to them and your own approach to yourself can either shift your reaction to them or can actually work to create an experience with them that is kinder and more compassionate.
Couldn't agree with you more about that. It sounds like it's definitely worth doing. Now, for people out there listening, is there a website where they can find out more about your work and maybe how to connect with you?
Absolutely. My website is my name. It is sivangarr.com. That is spelled S-I, V as in Victor, A, N as in Nancy, Garr.com. And I would be happy, anybody who wants to sign up for my email list, I would be happy to send this meditation to you written down so you'll have it and you can begin practicing it.
Well, very good. It certainly leaves our listeners with one particular quote that I remember hearing. I was thumbing around the religious channels one day, and every once in a while you find someone who speaks and you think, this guy's really interesting, or this gal's really got an interesting message. And this one here, it was kind of in line of what we're talking about, and it was interesting what he said. He says, just remember this, disappointment is inevitable, but discouragement is a choice. And when I thought about how empowering that is to know, think about how often we hold on to a situation and become discouraged by it. It's already happened, but we want to hold on to that. With this meditation, as you described, and these suggestions, people can again to release this so they can move on. We become very childlike again, I would think.
Right. As we begin to release our negativity, that innocence can come back to us, and that curiosity about life and ourselves. And some of the things that people will experience by practicing releasing negativity is feeling lighter, feeling more freer, not feeling that heaviness about negative emotions, feeling calmer, as you said, having less thoughts of anxiety, but also feeling, physically calmer and feeling quieter and then having this underlying experience of a strength building in them. Because a lot of what people feel when they're barraged by negativity is often they feel weak and too weak to deal with it. And so by practicing releasing, we're also uncovering our own intrinsic strengths.
Absolutely. You can see where the gold at the end of the rainbow is here. Well,
Exactly.
First of all, I want to thank you again, Sivan, for joining us here on the program today. And for our listeners out there, go ahead and give that website out one more time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel.
You bet.
The website is my name, Sivan Garr. So it's www.sivangarr.com.
Very good. Okay, folks, you listeners out there, it's time for you to do your homework to release that negativity and empower the creativity that all of us were put here to engage with. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program, Sivan.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I appreciate it.
You bet. We want to thank you, the listeners out there, for joining us. You can also discover more by visiting us at beyond50radio.com. That is the number 50. We encourage you to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. Stay up to date on what's going on Beyond 50 and what's coming up on our upcoming programs as well. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Beyond 50 Radio as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 Radio program. And remember, live your day past halfway.